Good morning, Sinamai. It's Wednesday around 6 a.m. here in Saipan, and we're catching up with Delegate Kimberlyn King-Hinds. Good morning, good evening to you. I don't know what time it is in DC right now.
Well, it's good night and good morning, as I like to say to Chester when I get on the phone with him around this time.
All right, well, thanks for making time. You know, it's a busy week and you're there in DC. But perhaps we'll start with the mail issue. And so we got some clarity, but not, there's still a lot of questions. They said mail will still be delivered. That's a statement Marianas Press got as well. But there are still some outstanding questions. So what's the latest on that?
So we did write back to USPS with regards to, for example, what it means to, levy whatever the charges are as it relates to outgoing mail, right? And so we haven't heard back yet. And I think that everybody, has that same question. And so we are waiting to get a response back and get something official on paper. As far as we know, individuals are not being assessed that fee. But I want to make sure that we clarify this issue moving forward because it is our position that we fall outside the custom zone and therefore there shouldn't be any charges. And so that's where we're at with that. And we're going to continue to work to make sure that whatever the arrangement is in conformance with the covenant.
And I know this particular issue is something you also campaigned on, the uniqueness of the CNMI and our covenant. Um, is part of the broader conversation here with these federal officials also educating them on things like our covenant and some of those provisions?
Tomas, most people here have never heard of the covenant to include folks within the administration. And so that has been a part of the challenge, right? Not just folks with administration who are new, but even folks who've been in Congress for all these years. When you start talking about certain issues that are unique to the CNMI as a result of the covenant and this negotiation that we codified through the covenant, it has been a challenge because of the lack of knowledge. And so, that is half the battle. It's just getting everybody to the same level of understanding and then getting them to act with urgency given the dire situation of the CNMI's economy.
And speaking of that, I know the IGIA, which is basically the meeting with all the insular areas, just wrapped up. I know you've been vocal about wanting that to be a working space and not just a space that people air concerns. What can you share about the progress that was made with conversations at the IGIA? And I know there was a particular focus on energy, right, and utilities.
Yes. And so this mid-year IGIA is the first of its kind, actually. And this was a result of a request that I made back in February to the secretary. I said, hey, this annual IGIA meetings with the territories seem to be just an annual meeting where the territories get together with the interior and gripe about the same old challenges over and over and over again. And so I was very happy and pleased that they listened and they heard us and proposed to have this mid-year IGIA. And the purpose of the mid-year IGIA is to put together a working group and to begin addressing some of these issues. So three areas of focus as a result of this meeting is obviously, as you stated, utilities, energy. The other one is workforce. And I think the last one is biosecurity, given the fact that that's been an issue that has been raised repeatedly as a result of military expansion in the CNMI and the lack of capacity, right? We don't want another repeat of what we're seeing in Guam with regards to the brown tree snakes, with regards to, red ants and whatever types of other invasive species that we've seen devastating Guam. Rhino beetle, for example, we're seeing an infestation in Rhoda. Fortunately, I think that is somehow contained, but we don't want that in the CNMI. Prevention is better than cure, right? And in this case, making sure that they don't come in is very critical, given all this movement of cargo and equipment coming through either Saipan or Tinian ports. And so, that's exciting, right? Because now we're seeing and getting some traction with regards to some of our issues being concerned, and the fact that they're making a concerted effort to bring in other federal partners to be a part of the conversation, so that there can be a whole of government conversation with regards to some of the issues that are being raised by the territories. I think is very critical in terms of identifying steps and potential solutions, and who basically within the federal partners can provide the resources in terms of laying out a roadmap and actually implementing to finally, right, get some of these issues off the table.
I read your speech that people can find in the newsletter. You asked some really tough questions to the federal government, right? You ask here, basically, are territories left to be in the dark? Are we a tax liability? Where do you see us going? What's the end goal? Are we on a path to statehood? Are we staging grounds for defense? Are we part of the future of this country?
Yeah,
Yeah, what
right.
prompted you to ask those? Yeah.
Well, this is a two-way street, right? This is a partnership, and it seems that, for many, many years, there's, this constant conversations about the same things over and over and over again. And I think, my speech was intended to have the government go on record to actually express what is the plan, right? Because we've been coming here year after year after year asking for policy reforms as it relates to labor, as it relates to transportation, as it relates to the economy, and no action has been taken. My predecessor, Congressman Keeley, has made great efforts to address some of these issues, but it seems to have fallen on deaf ears. And here we are facing the same issues, right? And if, my question is, do you just want us to be a welfare state, right? I don't think anybody wants that, especially in an administration that is very focused on making America great again. We're not great again if our economy is in the current situation that it is. And I'm not, what I'm advocating for are tools, right? And these tools come from policy reform that allows the CNMI to build its own economy.
And one of those tools that we have is definitely the 902 talks. I know that primarily sits in the executive branch's wheelhouse. But given you're our representative out there, what can you share with us? I know Governor Apatang told Marianas Press two of his staff stayed behind at the request of the Interior Department, so that might be good indications. But what's the update from your office on 902 and how that went?
Well, so, I was very grateful for the governor's invitation to have a seat on the table and to be a part of the conversation, because, there needs to be a partnership with the local government and its federal representative in terms of advancing some of these asks that, the CNMI government is making. Some of these asks require legislative approval, right? Some of it, you know, does not necessarily have to go through that, where the federal government can outright, grant the assistance, right? And so we sat there, and I thought that the governor and his team did an exceptional job in terms of being direct about the challenges that the CNMI faces in terms of the economy. And, for since the time that I've been elected, I've been saying that we all need to be on the same page in terms of what we're saying with regards to the economy to the federal government, right? We can't be talking about a $20 million increase in our budget and saying that the economy is hunky-dory, right? So when we come before the federal government, we have to make a case as to why we have these asks. What is the need, right? Folks are not just going to give you, write you a check just because you say, I need this help. You have to show the need. And so the governor and his team did a really good job of presenting that need. Obviously, the 902 is a process. the local government, the CNMI government, the governor presented their case, and now it is on the ball. The court, the ball is now in the court of the federal government, and I can say that there is a lot of activity and a lot of meetings that have been happening to try to figure out, what is the position with regards to the information that has been presented. And so I was really happy that the Secretary of Finance and the OMB director was able to stay a little bit longer to be able to provide the additional data that was being requested by the Interior. That tells me that work is being done to figure out, what the next steps are and how to best help.
It seems as though the audits or single audits and getting catch up on audits are still one of the major roadblocks. Would you agree with that? Was that communicated as well?
That was communicated, and I think that was one of the concerns from the Interior, right? And I'll tell you this, we have been fighting tooth and nail to restore one of the stop and the valve grants, right, that has been withheld by DOJ, which is going to impact Caradoc. And I had a meeting with them on Monday, and sharing with them that, hey, the CNMI, is at a point where it's literally digging change out of a piggy bank at this point to make ends meet. And so I do understand that, federal rules require that the CNMI is up to date in terms of the audit, but, it's been a challenge because of the pandemic, and the fact that we had that the Deloitte wind it down, and we only have one other auditor that is serving the entire region, right? And then, just having enough technical capacity within our own government to be able to expedite this process. And so it has been a challenge, right? And then the other challenge with regards to the audit is that we went from, the JD Edwards program to now Munis. And so all of that, has created this perfect storm that is delaying the completion of these audits. And it's not to say that not everybody's working or not everybody's trying, but it's not going to be ready, all of it at least, as they expect it to be. And so, I'm really grateful that the Interior was able to provide additional funding support to be able to give to the territories to address those audit findings of tune of $250,000 to the CNMI, and hopefully that will help. But the issue really is money. It's money, right? So the audit is one thing, but there's a whole bunch of different factors, right, that is impacting our economy, and I think the biggest challenge is that we have not been on the same page as to providing clarity to the federal government as to what is the true state of the economy in terms of revenue, right?
All right, Congresswoman, I appreciate you catching up on a big week in Washington for the CNMI. Just want to open the floor. Anything you want to say to your constituents here at home?
Well, the work continues, committee meetings continues. I have a committee meeting tomorrow with the Army Corps of Engineer, and I know shoreline erosion is on everybody's mind, especially in light of the recent storm that hit Micro Beach. But we have 99 problems, Tomas, and the issue before us is it's a long list, but the job is to continue chipping away one issue at a time, and stay focused and staying focused, and just working together. And I just want to express how thankful I am to the governor for his partnership and for his willingness to work together. I do also want to add that, hey, right, I think that we're going to have to make some very tough decisions, because if we are paying attention to what's happening here in the United States in terms of the view of this administration in terms of government reform, government transparency, government accountability, and efficiency, right? We have some hard decisions ahead of us in terms of the size of the government, right? we are not generating enough revenues to be able to sustain our current operations. And we haven't been there for a long time. And, if you're keeping track with the conversations that are being had in different media platforms, there's this general belief that the government should do something about the size of government, and it's long overdue, right? But that's not a decision that the delegate makes. That's a decision that the legislature has to make, the governor has to make, and that's a tough one. And it's tough because it's very easy to say, hey, let's eliminate these duplicative agencies, these duplicative positions, but then, right, given the state of our economy, where are these people going to go when there are no jobs because our industry is dying? Do they all now line up for food stamp? Do they all now have to avail of Medicaid? Well, we have very limited funds as it relates to those block grant programs. And so it's a cascading impact. And so, we're going to have to work together, put our heads together to figure this out. And I hope that, we all take a step back and have a whole of government approach to address this challenge. I do believe that this is something that we can come out of, but as long as we are all marching to the same tune and working towards the same thing.
All right, Congresswoman, looking forward to catching up when you're back on island. But thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.